Here he comes. Show force.
Beyond this ridge is Taliban-controlled territory. These are the men of the U.S. Army's Dragon Troop. Their operation here represents the extreme edge of America's waning conventional war against the Taliban.
Yeah, it's a sniper.
A gun run along a ridgeline for suppression. Break.
This is the Combat Outpost, or COP. Americans have long abandoned these remote, austere fighting positions and consolidated into larger forward operating bases, which are now being closed one by one. Far from a peaceful process, closing down these FOBs has sometimes meant leaving the fight to the ANA instead of finishing it decisively. At FOB Airborne, a complex attack and prolonged 6-hour firefight heralded the American exit and closure there. At FOB Ghazni, American paratroopers had to call in close air support after being pinned down in a 2-hour firefight. They visited their savior A-10 pilots on Bagram Airfield to say their thanks. Dragon Troop 2 is in the process of closing a FOB, Shank, also known as Rocket City in light of the near-daily rocket attacks there. It's while at Shank that they get their unique mission, helping coordinate a major Afghan National Army, or ANA, offensive involving multiple battalions. For 1 week, the soldiers of Dragon Troop, 2nd Squadron, 3rd Cavalry Regiment returned to Outpost Karway in Logar Province. Built in 2009, the post was left to Afghan forces in 2011. U.S. and Afghan intel say it's surrounded by villages deemed supportive to the Taliban, and American forces haven't set foot here in 3 years. That is, until now.
We're at the stage right now in the game where the ANA is pretty much in the lead. We're almost 100% in a support role. They're coming out here, testing their ability to project power into a more remote area. And so how this fits in with the overall strategy in the country is that we're showing the ANA that they can do it. You know, they're having to test their own systems. We're here to help watch and coach where we can. But it's pretty much showing them that they have the ability to. And what this is going to do is it's going to make it safer as we retrograde out for the local population, the ANA, and for the U.S. forces here. Just since they got that confidence, they'll be able to secure the area, allowing us to go.
2 days into the operation, and the Americans remain on COP, building up its defenses or simply passing the time. However, even before their advise and assist mission takes a turn toward open combat, almost all of Dragon Troop's soldiers have already seen action. The U.S. combat mission is slated to end in December, but the experiences of these and other soldiers proves that for service members still on the ground and in harm's way over the next few months, ending America's longest war won't be as easy or as safe as simply waiting out the clock.
So I almost got shot in the head, and it just doesn't feel real. Like rounds are flying over your head, and there's just between like the snap and the crack of a round, like how close it is. The first time we got shot at, we were in like a big crater in the ground, and like everyone got in the prone. I was still standing up. Like, what's happening? Like everything they told me I wouldn't do, I've done on this deployment.
Like what?
They said we don't do night missions anymore. Done like 4 of them already. We don't do combat outposts. We're not supposed to stay outside the wire. We're gonna be out here for like 6 days. I was just expecting to watch movies all deployment.
While the Americans coordinate from the COP, the ANA does battle in the surrounding area, giving these soldiers a close look at what years of training Afghan forces has accomplished. Lieutenant Hufford is very much a thinking man's soldier. A Stanford graduate, he was already living and working in Kabul as a civilian when he got his approval for Officer Candidate School.
When you have a chance and you go back to these places that we've left, and obviously we left this 3 years ago, and you kind of see how the ANA taken it and adapted it to their own needs. It's almost giving you a little glimpse into the future that you don't really see every day. So, you know, it's that whole Americans are always looking forward. We never really come back to the places we've abandoned or left. And just kind of get a feel of this is what Afghan sustainability looks like.
The ANA take 5 casualties early on, but boast they've killed a mid-level Taliban commander. They also capture 8 prisoners, which they ask the Americans to help transport to an intelligence base 40 kilometers away. 2 of these men are former government soldiers, Afghan intelligence officials say, underscoring the insider attack threat. By and large, American forces have been separated from the Afghans they've been charged with training and advising nationwide as a response to the scores of American soldiers killed by their supposed allies in the past. Here at the COP, the Americans have no choice but to be near their Afghan counterparts, and apparently revel in the experience. General Abdul Razik commands a brigade of ANA fighters. His men are charged with driving the Taliban out of southern Logar province and into a decisive fight with another ANA unit further south. In the midst of his operation, he falls victim to his own success. His forces have taken so much ground while leaving behind checkpoints that he finds himself stretched too thin. He asks the Americans to expand from their advisory role and help provide ground cover for his men on their upcoming missions. Dragon Troop agrees to help.
You haven't done that yet? I'll learn my first one.
Up until now, the Americans have acted on the fringes of the ANA's capabilities, helping to coordinate attacks or providing intel and air support to spook the Taliban. Today, they mount up to leave the wire.
Hey man, do you know what this area is down here, man? Is this like a bazaar area? Or?
Yeah, first time it's supposed to be a bazaar, but the Taliban's warned shopkeepers to close their shops 3 months ago. So the shopkeepers closed their shops.
They move along the ANA's flanks to provide cover while the Afghan soldiers meet with locals or engage with the Taliban. No one but the insurgents has held sway in some of these areas for years.
In contact from the same spot.
Alright, he's running. This guy has telling me he has a weapon.
Sergeant Burns and a small team continues ahead of the main force to recon, giving the ANA a heads up to possible Taliban movements spotted through his sniper scope.
You want to go where nobody else would want to go. You know, it's where they'd look at that position and say, oh, there's nobody there because it's too nasty or something, you know. That's where I want to be, you know. It's where you can put eyes on that guy and then look out there and be like, oh, surely he's not crawling around to that field.
Heads up, right window.
Gotcha.
Over here.
Gotcha.
Hey, get that on that window, right there with the gun on that window. Oh, there's no ANA up there.
Nope.
The sniper's mission is also to identify non-combatants, as any civilian casualties could derail the ANA's entire mission.
Hey Roger, we got a lot of civilian movement around. It seems like the atmospherics are just normal. Over.
While the American sniper doesn't find his target, his Taliban counterpart nearly does.
Yeah. Are you hit or are you good?
No, I'm good. Sniper.
Alright, I ain't gonna back the that was close.
That was way close. Aim high, don't hit the
Later patrol will find the Taliban sniper's hideout. Apparently, he took a shot from over 1,300 meters away. They find Dragunov sniper and PKM machine gun casings. Lieutenant Hofford searches the basement of this compound. In its darkest corner, he finds a white Taliban flag. Bursts of small arms fire follow the sniper's opening volley, and the fight is on.
Go.
I'm trying to shoot a 320, man. These dudes up.
Camp, open the radio bag.
I know the balance between us and A&A out there, our role really wasn't to fight yesterday. Just so happened the fight creeped its way over to us on top of our battle position.
Up until now, coalition aircraft have only had to fly low and fast to scare off the Taliban. This time, with soldiers still pinned down, an F-15 has to unleash suppressive fire from its cannons to stem the insurgents. After the firefight finally subsides, the soldiers move down into the village, where some of the fire came from. They find farmers and almost no one else. On their way up from the village and back to their vehicles, pot shots ring out from the distance and send the men toward cover.
You guys think they're watching us?
Yeah. They're watching us right now. They can probably see us right now.
Yep. That's why as soon as we got our back turned, they start shooting. But they start.
Whether the Taliban at large is simply watching and waiting is a matter of great concern for U.S. and Afghan leaders. General Razik is hopeful for the future. He mentions the funding promises made to Afghanistan by NATO leaders at the recent Wales summit, and speaks cheerfully of a future Afghan air force that is at the moment little more than a tiny fleet of aging Soviet aircraft, years away from matching the air support the Americans can provide. During the final day of the Afghan operation and the third day the Americans spend outside the wire, Razik holds a shura with village elders from the villages he's cleared over the past week. The potshots the Americans have come to expect upon their exit from the village never come. Instead, the only shots fired are from celebrating A&A soldiers. General Razik has completed his mission. This year's fighting season is drawing to a close, but next year's is a certainty. Also clear is the Afghan army's willingness to fight. They've taken nearly all the casualties inflicted by the Taliban this season, though exact numbers are difficult to pin down. Less certain is how they'll fare without American combat soldiers like the men of Dragon Troop on the ground next summer. Now, in the northern edge of this very province, the Taliban mass in hundreds, and A&A control of checkpoints there is in constant flux. But here, today, in this corner of Logar, the future seems bright. It isn't exactly quiet, but it is a measure more peaceful. For now.